Welcome to Season 4 of the M-W Tactical Podcast. Sit back and enjoy the conversations of Rockstar Burst and myself, Michael Woodland, as we discuss the sport of shooting, goals, training, community matters, and everyday life. You are listening to the M-W Tactical Podcast. All right, good people. Once again, we're back at it with another installation of the M-W Tactical Podcast. And just like always, I had to not only nag her for the remainder of the week, well, the past week, but I had to tell her that, hey, come on, let's go do this. Let's do this so I can stop nagging you and we can get on with the show. So I can restart my nagging of her tomorrow. So that's pretty much how it's going to go. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring forth Rockstar. What's going on with you there, Rockstar?
Oh, hey. I can't even believe it's been a crazy week, and it's Halloween this weekend, so I feel like everyone's excited about that. But yeah, this weekend, this whole month has just completely flown by. So here we are.
Oh man, I can't remember who I was talking to. It was just a couple of days ago, and when they asked me, I was like, I do not like any holidays after the month of August. I really don't like this time of the year. And it's only because I was scarred from being a child, about the whole Santa situation. That kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. So everything else, I'm like, nah, forget it. I really don't want to support it. But you going to any Halloween get-togethers?
I think so. So one of my girlfriends I don't know, she's opening a bar that's supposed to open on Saturday. And I stopped by yesterday just to scope it. It looks awesome. I mean, she bought it from a guy who was almost 80 years old, who had basically, I don't want to say he ran into the ground, but he kind of did, mainly because he just didn't want to keep up with it and take care of it. So she bought it, and they've done a ton of work to it. So I'm going to stop out to that. And then there's a bar that I don't really like downtown Milwaukee, but a bunch of my friends go there pretty much every year. I haven't been out in Milwaukee. I mean, I've lived in Minnesota the past 7 years. So now that I'm back in Milwaukee and I'm like catching up with friends and doing all the things, I think we're going to go to this bar there. They do a Halloween costume contest, and it's fun. I mean, it'll be cool to see people out and about. So that'll be good.
So what's going to be your Halloween costume?
I don't know. I have so many costumes. Last year I was a goddess. I have this really pretty goddess costume I was like, yeah, why not? It was like the end of the world last year, so I figured I would just rock that. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe a pirate. I've got so much to choose from. One year I went as Poison Ivy, but I had a red wig and I have braids in now, so I can't wear the wig. So I don't know. I'm sure I'll put something together.
No, okay. I don't know. Like if I step out of the house on Halloween, I'm just either going to be Mike or Michael Woodland of M-W Tactical. That's my only two costumes I wear. Yeah. So I wanted to bring forth talking points this week about safety, because we already know Alec Baldwin has been in the press for what happened on the movie set out there in New Mexico with the movie that he had coming out called Rust, or that they're filming called Rust, that will be coming out soon if it doesn't get shut down. But I just wanted to hit up the 4 safety rules and just ask, like, straight from the beginning, what is your take on the 4 safety rules?
Yeah. Well, the first one, which he violated right off the bat, is treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Yeah. And if you just follow that simple rule, I mean, this whole situation would have been mitigated. It wouldn't have happened, right? Like, you can never assume that just because someone else is handing you a firearm that they've checked it. It's up to us to actually do that action. And it was funny, I posted something about that on Instagram, and one of my friends was talking about a hunting incident that he had years ago. And he was, he had just finished hunter safety. He was like 12 or 13. Him and his cousin were out in the woods with like his dad and their uncles. And he had checked the shotgun. It was clear. There was no ammo in it. And he was just like kind of putzing around with it. Then handed it to his cousin, and then went off to do something else. And he came back, and his cousin gave him the gun back. And so he was just kind of playing around with it again, and he pressed the trigger, and his cousin had actually loaded ammo into the gun. And luckily, like, no one was hurt. He wasn't pointing it at anyone, but he said that that incident, he's like, it had changed him significantly. It really scared him. It's one of those things, like, we have to be so diligent about that. If we're going to hand our firearm off to someone, it's our job to really make sure that we check that it's not loaded.
That's very much true. That's very true right there. So, but before I go into my talking point, I do want to say this week's show is brought to you by JM4 Tactical. As you already know, JM4 Tactical sponsors me in competition shooting. And if you will, head on over to jam4tactical.com and look at the vast array of holsters that they have. If you're interested in the holster that I'm actually using for my competition reasons, and one of the holsters that I use for concealed carry, check out the Relic. And you can get the Relic inside the waistband, outside the waistband, and even in a pancake format that can also go outside the waistband. So head on over to JM4 Tactical and check out their selection for holsters for your carry needs for your firearm. Now, I'm a firm believer in that also, because I mean, honestly, I really don't like comparing what you do in the military to what you do in the civilian sector, but there are a lot of things that goes on the same in my mind amongst the two. Because, a lot of people put the military at a higher standard, but if that was your day-to-day life, it's just, you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, just like you would at your regular job. And the one thing that gets me is, like, when we be doing training, we have to do the crawl, walk, run phase. And of course, we do it a blank run at first. Then we'll do the run with the dry run is nothing in the firearm, the first run. The second run is the blank run, where you have blanks in your firearm and, you're reacting to it. And then the third time you do it, that's your live fire run. And at times when they bring the ammo, they bring both blanks and live at the same time, because you couldn't have the ammo truck just running back and forth to the ranges if everybody was doing that form of training during that week. So it was on us, and of course the NCOs who was over us when I was a private until I became the senior NCO, to ensure that the blanks and live rounds were separated as such. And there was a few times when we're loading it, and you have like a small detail, loading the magazines or separating the magazines, the rounds, so you can distribute it so people can put it in the magazines. But like when I was in charge, I always collected up the magazines from everybody who was going to shoot and ensure that, hey, we only loading blanks right now. And then turn around, hey, give me those magazines back. Now we're putting live rounds in those same magazines, after the fact. But it was a thorough process that you have to check and then recheck again, But even like you said, is you can't push the blame off on anybody on that one, because those 4 rules are what they are in place for. They bounce off of each other, but regardless of what you're doing, even when you turn around and you look at it, whenever you're shooting, you can skip one of them, and let's just say you happen to flag somebody, but you don't got your finger on the trigger. Nobody got hurt. Of course, somebody's going to correct you and all this and that. Lesson learned. Hopefully you don't do it again. But even in the turn of it, those rules are very important, so where do you go from there?
Yeah. And he broke all of them. I mean, you don't point your firearm at something that you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off of the trigger until, you're ready to use it. And then, knowing your target and what's behind it and what's beyond it. I mean, the other person on set was injured as well. So, I mean, it was just a blatant violation of all of those different things. So it's just it shows you like how quickly something can go from, something really fun and really cool, like a movie, to something really tragic and really, it's like devastating.
Yeah. The one thing I don't agree with is if you're anti-gun, and of course, we live in a free society, so you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. But my belief is if you're anti-gun, why are you making movies with something you don't believe in? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Right.
that doesn't like ring that bell with me. So but like I said, if I don't support something, I'm not going to support it and doing something else.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like I said, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. So,
Right.
but at
Yeah.
the
And it's
same,
also, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say the other side of it is I'm a firm believer in if everybody who was on that set who touched the firearm, right, should have went through some form of a firearm safety class. So everybody is aware of what's going on in a sense of speaking. Because technically when you're on the range, what's one of the first things an instructor always says? Who's a safety instructor here? Right? Who can call ceasefire? Everybody can call ceasefire. Yeah, of course. So why isn't it like that on a movie set? But
Right.
they got more rules in place because I never been on a movie set whereas it was like firearms involved. So I don't know the ins and outs of whatever that agreement they came up with since 93 that they should have been following that they didn't follow. But we're going to bring in somebody who I consider a subject matter expert on matters that hit society like this, and her name is Jerah, and we're going to let her talk about it, give her viewpoint, and hear it from a different perspective as well. So but we're going to do that after that commercial break. But when you first heard that, what was your first take on what took place with Mr. Baldwin?
Hmm. That's a good question. Well, so it was an interesting story on a couple fronts because the more I followed along with it, the weirder it got.
Mhm.
Like the crew had walked off the set. There were there were messages circulating saying that the conditions had already been fairly dire and tensions were high and people weren't getting along. And I don't know all the backstory. I wasn't there. I wasn't on set. So, but to just sort of see that there was already kind of this breakdown happening, and that people had already left. And it sounds like, most of the union people were already gone, which in my mind means the people who were in charge of any weapons on set were likely not there when this happened. So just to kind of see all of these bad things that happen, I'm like, this is a really not good situation. This is kind of like as bad as it gets, right? You got a crew that's ticked off. They've left. You've got people using firearms who don't know what they're doing. You've got just all these factors that when you compile them together spells out disaster. And just the fact that, I mean, Alec Baldwin has been so anti-gun for so long. To have this happen to someone like that, it's very like almost ironic in a sense. And but it just goes, and you kind of alluded to this, like they should have gone through a training program. And it's also why like safety and training is so important, because all of this could have been avoided had they, one, gone through a safety course, and two, been properly trained on firearms. So to me, like right off the bat, that was just like, okay, this is like the domino effect of things just going wrong and wrong and wrong. And this is like, of course, this was the end result because you had all of the wrong things in place. So it's very sad. It's very unfortunate, but it's also something that could have been avoided had prior steps been taken.
Very true. Very true. So I know like one of the things I always do, I always beat up the 4 firearm safety rules. And like how most people always rule number 1 is this, rule number 2, rule number 3, and rule number 4. But what I've come across is a lot of people can't remember the rules like that. Well, one reason is they don't practice it every day, like somebody who deals with firearms on a regular basis like that. And there's an acronym that I use that is TANK. And I tell people, if you can remember TANK, it should help you remember the 4 firearm safety rules a little bit easier. So even if you can't remember 1 through 4, remember the acronym TANK. So TANK, the first letter in everything. Treat all firearms as if it's loaded. Always keep your finger off the trigger. Never point your finger at anything you're not willing to destroy, and know what's in front of and beyond your target. Easy acronym to remember. So if you can't remember 1 through 4, let's do TANK. You know what I'm saying? So for all you instructors out there, that's my my little tip for the day. So but those 4 firearm safety rules are very important. Even when I do draw fire, I only draw fire in 2 rooms in my house. And it's my bedroom and my living room. So those 2 places, I know for a fact there is no live rounds in. But even so, like I go through everything. I just make sure there are no live rounds in, because when I have my magazine with the dummy rounds in it, sometimes I'll drop the magazine and a round will pop out. One of the dummy rounds will pop out. But I don't want a live round laying around. And then when I look down, oh, it's 2 rounds that pop out. And I put one of them in and then accidentally, charge and pull the trigger. Next thing you know, ND in the house, so, but that's one reason you don't want live rounds around, because, you're practicing, especially like on a movie set. Now you're pointing firearms because you're simulating killing or simulating scaring somebody. But when that bang really happens, you can't call timeout. You can't bring the bullet back, so it was an action that's already taken place. So how do we move forward from there? What actions do you do from there? So 4 firearm safety rules are very, very, very important. Now, let's go ahead and dive into this commercial break right quick. And we're going to go ahead and get Jerah on the phone, and let's hear her standpoint on this, and hear what lessons of wisdom she's going to drop on us. So to everybody who's listening, please go ahead and adjust your volumes, get those headphones correct. If you're cruising in your rods, go ahead and get your sunshade straight. If it's sunny in your area, if it's raining, just go ahead and take your foot off the gas pedal. And we'll be right back. And here are a few words from our sponsors.
Mental health and guns. At Walk the Talk America, we are working with both the mental health community and the gun industry. Created by a gun industry veteran, Walk the Talk America seeks to raise awareness and create change through suicide prevention and firearm safety without legislation. We strive to eliminate the prejudice that firearms and mental health face. For more information and to support Walk the Talk America, please visit walkthetalkamerica.org.
What's up, good people? Thank you for taking the time and listening to the M-W Tactical Podcast. Please go visit the M-W Tactical store at www.m-wtactical.com/store and help support our efforts by purchasing a shirt or 2. If you haven't done so, go follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for M-W Tactical.
Are you in the market to purchase your first or next firearm, but find the atmosphere of a gun store intimidating, crowded, or uninviting? There's a way for you to purchase the gun you want while avoiding the crowds, the gruff salesmen, and the marked up prices that come with a brick and mortar gun store. The process is called a transfer, where the purchase is made in an online store and sent to a federally licensed middleman called an FFL, who processes the paperwork and background check for a firearm purchase. CAE Transfers is the FFL with the lowest transfer cost in the Midlands at only $20 or $15 with the presentation of a South Carolina concealed weapons permit and $10 for repeat customers. If you live in Columbia, South Carolina or its surrounding areas, choose CAE Transfers as your FFL during checkout and let me help you complete your online gun purchase. You can find and follow CAE Transfers online at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using @CAE Transfers. Thank you for your business, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm Jason Pratt, Masterclass USPSA shooter, owner of Brass Monkey Bullets. If you're interested in competition bullets, visit www.brassmonkeybulletsllc.com or call me at 423-967-1063. For more information, my email is brassmonkeybulletsllc@gmail.com. Thank you.
JM4 Tactical has developed a state-of-the-art polymer holster that will quickly become your go-to holster. With high-quality Herman oak leather securely sewn to the interior of the molded outer Bolteron shell, your draw becomes silent and no more scratches up and down your firearm. When seconds count, you can rest assured that you will have the upper hand when you need it most. Whether you carry open or concealed, the Relic holster is available in 4 different models, fitting over hundreds of different style guns. The new reliable, easy, light, individual carry holster by JM4 Tactical. Order your Relic today at jm4tactical.com.
All right, good people, we're back at it again, and thank you for sitting through that commercial break. And please go pay the sponsors a visit and let them know that you heard about their product on the M-W Tactical Podcast. Now, prior to the break, of course, myself and the lovely Rockstar, we was talking about the 4 firearm safety rules and how important they are. And one thing I wanted to say right before the break was that, a lot of times when you go to court behind a firearm related incident, they build the case backwards. Like when you go to court, it sounds like, okay, it's the play-by-play of what took place and how it went down. But when they build the case, they build it backwards from what did you violate? The 4 firearm safety rules, which one did you violate? And then it goes into play and how they build it from there. So it's like already closed from the rip. So one of that old saying, a lawyer is not going to ask you a question they don't already know the answer to. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of funny how that plays into perspective of everything in life when it comes to firearms, especially like if you got the misconception of it was an accidental shooting or I didn't know. So how does ignorance of the law play into it when you have a firearm? So you remember in the first segment, I told you I had a buddy, and yes, I did butcher her name in the first segment. And MJ actually caught me and she was like, hey, I'm gonna have to pull your ear when I see you. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that.
I can depend on my girl to help me out.
So I want to bring on my buddy, Jerah, who I call, Jerah, who I call Jerah.
You did it on purpose this time.
Well, I want to bring my buddy Jerah from Clearing the Chamber, who also does a lot of other things within the gun industry, to the M-W Tactical Podcast. So without further ado, yes, I did butcher her name, but my bad, my apologies. The lovely Jerah. What's going on with you there, Jerah?
I'm going to give my own in my own applause.
No, trust me, your applause is right there. There you go. You got your.
So yeah, so I'm super glad to be on. So I met you. I think I met you like 2 years ago, right? And
Yes,
then I met MJ at Train and Learn, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, you met both of us at Train and Learn because I met you at the first Train and Learn, which was about 2 years ago.
But I
And
didn't meet her at the first Train and Learn.
no, she
Did I?
came to the whatever one she came to. I wasn't at that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so yeah, so I was super excited to see more ladies at the Train and Learn this year, and hopefully that will become a trend that will move, upward through the years. But I was really excited to meet you, MJ. I think you're doing really, really great things. So very excited to see more women just kind of killing it in instructorship.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of women doing the gun stuff because the one thing that always pisses me off is whenever you go, well, I know in my personal experience, whenever you go to a firearm store or some type of box store or a true gun store, the female is always trying to be sold the smallest firearm in the collection. That always pisses me off.
I think it has gotten better. Probably, I've seen a significant change in this over probably the last 5 years.
Mhm.
But I think that there is still a big delta between men working in this industry, like in especially in gun stores and like on gun ranges, that really don't understand how to decipher whether or not a woman is an experienced shooter. And then what tends to be dangerous is sometimes they will just assume that a man is an experienced shooter. This happened to me. I'll tell you a quick story. There's a place right down the street from the security company that I work for, or that I train at, and I took somebody down there to qualify, and dude, I went through they put me through the ringer. I mean, and they should, right? If you're going into someone else's business and you're saying, I'm going to train this person with a gun, right? They should be asking you for your liability insurance, and they should be, trying to get to know you and understanding your experience. I mean, I have no problem being vetted. The problem that I have is they put me literally through the ringer for this. I showed them all the stuff. I sent them all the insurance. And then this guy comes in behind me as I'm filling out this waiver form. And they're like, hey, boss, what's going on? And he had the patched up range bag. He had the tattoos. He had the long beard. I mean, he just, he looked very tactical. And he was like, hey, man, what's going on? And they were like, hey, well, have you shot here before? And he's like, no. So they throw him this liability waiver and he signs it, and they're like, you're going to be on lane 6. They didn't ask him another question. They didn't have him read the safety rules. They didn't do a brief with him, nothing. They just let him go in. So I go in with my student and I finish before he does. And so I kind of pop over and ask the guy, I'm like, hey man, what's going on? I'm Jerah. And he was like, oh, hey, he was like, my name's Tim. And I was like, it's nice to meet you. I was like, hey man, how long have you been shooting? He goes, man, he's like, I just got into this probably like 3 years ago. I moved here from California. And it honestly made me want to like punch somebody, because I've been shooting for 25 years. You know what I mean? I've been teaching for 12. And so that's the assumption that a lot of women have to deal with, especially females who are instructors, is now a lot of females who are instructors haven't been doing it that long. Okay, so let's be fair. But you should not assume. You should ask everybody the same questions, especially if they're new to your business. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think a lot of women instructors are up against, and a lot of women in general who are experienced shooters when they go to the range. It's automatically assumed that we are not experienced. But a lot of times it's assumed that men who go to the range are experienced when in fact they may not be. And then we end up with negligent discharge situations. We end up with dangerous firearms handling, and we end up with Alec Baldwin situations.
Exactly. That's very much true right there. I'm sorry that happened to you. And but I'm pretty sure a similar story like that has happened to everyone that everyone can relate to.
I'm not sorry, because I sure did educate him
Mhm.
on my way out.
Oh,
You
there
know,
you
I
go.
was like, hey man, look, here's, I think everybody should just be treated the same.
Mhm.
And if we did that, then it would be easy to decipher who's experienced and who's not. And, also it would really give you a handle on who has a problem with ego and who doesn't, right? I mean, there shouldn't be an experienced shooter that goes into a gun range that has a problem being questioned, especially because they don't know you.
Right.
Now if they know you and you go there frequently, they're not going to ask you those questions anymore. If somebody new that might work there might ask that question, and you shouldn't be offended by that. You should actually be happy that somebody is trying to vet you and ask you to make sure that everybody else on the range is safe. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I like talking to you, Jerah, because you always take a negative and make it a positive. That's one thing I really do like about you.
Yeah, I don't mind being questioned at all. I mind somebody assuming something about me, right? So I posted this thing on Facebook, and MJ may have seen it, but I got a private investigator referred me to a lawyer, and this lawyer is working a gun case, and he's basically trying to prove that this person is lying.
Yes.
And so he called me, had me come to his office. I looked at the police report, I looked at all the pictures, and he was like, basically, I want to recreate this scene. I just want you to video yourself, maybe with a couple other people, because you're going to need somebody to hold the camera and, things like that. He's like, and I basically want you to find a car door or just an old junker car. And I want you to shoot it in the manner in which it's being explained in this police report. And I just want you to videotape that and then, just get it back to me. I was like, okay. So I post on Facebook, I'm like, I'm really excited about this opportunity. I never said anything about being a subject matter expert. I never said anything about being a witness, like a subject matter expert witness that would take the stand. And yet some dude has to come and just assume. And this is what he said in his comment. He said, I really want to rah-rah this post, but I'm having a hard time doing that because I really feel like there are other people in the industry that are better equipped and better suited to handle this kind of task. And I was like, what makes you, and I've never met this person. We're just connected on Facebook. And I was like, so what makes you assume that I'm not equipped to handle this task? And he was like, well, you understand that somebody's freedom hangs in the balance of your testimony. And I was like, when did I ever say in this post that I was testifying on anything?
Right.
Like, so you're assuming that I'm doing something that I never said that I was doing. And that's the problem, especially that the gun community has, I think, is we just assume things about people, and the people outside of the gun community assume things about the gun community. And so the problem here in its foundational form is all of our assumptions. And we need to quit doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. I think something else that works against you also is the fact that being a very attractive woman, now you always get the guy's ego that comes into place. And I don't know if it's the ego of, let me show you what I can do, or I'm going to use this opportunity to try to show off to you or whatever. But I've always noticed a lot of people do that on the range also. So how do you react to, and the same thing for you, MJ, how do y'all react to that when that happens?
Well, it has been I would say a decades long, at least in my experience. I'm 4 decades old. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing this when I was 12, and I kind of started to get a taste of like how the male ego goes into this, in my early 20s. And I think it's been a decades long task, mission, if you will, to try to infuse into the male part of the Second Amendment community and the gun community that it's okay to look at us as your equal, but we also have to get there. There's 2 sides to this too, because the thing that's being combated here is there's a lot of women who want to get into this industry because it's quote unquote cool.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of women that aren't willing to put forth the effort and the hours and the training that comes with making yourself an instructor, making yourself a subject matter expert. So it's 2 horns on the same goat. It's we as women have to put forth the effort as people who haven't really been doing this for a long time, right? Like, so before, years and years ago, men were brought up this way, right? I mean, it was a thing in our culture where it was normal to be brought up around firearms, but the men were the ones who were primarily getting this education, and the women really weren't, okay? Or at least not to the degree that the men were, okay? And now it's becoming a thing where this is very accessible to women. A lot of women are interested in it. Females are pretty much the number one demographic of new gun owners right now. And so I think that it's just this whole, we've got to turn this thing on its axis, but it's a slow process of men looking at women as their equal in this industry, but also women having to understand that it takes a long time and a lot of education to get to the point where you're actually a subject matter expert. So I think that it's just a very difficult thing for sometimes for some men, not all men, because I don't like blanket statements, but some men to look at women and go, no, you're really good at this, or maybe you're even better than me at this, and maybe I need to step up my game. I think that's the sort of intersection that we're in right now.
I agree with that. I can see that also. What about
right?
you?
What do you think, MJ?
Yeah, so I spent 5 years working in the power sports industry, mainly with cruiser and, big old motorcycles. And there are a lot of parallels between the motorcycle industry and the gun industry. Even when you walk into a Harley dealership, if you're a woman, the first bike that most store employees will tell you to get would be a Sportster, because it's the
and that's
smallest.
what I had.
Yes, because it's the smallest
That's
bike
what I
that
have.
Harley makes. But it's a very top-heavy motorcycle, and women aren't naturally. Our strength is in our lower body. Our core strength tends to be significantly higher in our, in our legs and in our arms. So to ride a Sportster it's a lot of upper body strength, because it's the way that the bike sits, the way that it's engineered. It's not a balanced frame. The most balanced bike that Harley makes is the Softail line. And yes, it's a bigger bike, it's got a bigger engine, it weighs significantly more, but as far as being balanced and lower to the ground, it's a way better fit, in my opinion, for a woman to ride, at least to ride comfortably. But there's this idea that since we are women, since our frames are typically smaller than men, that smaller is better. And we see the same thing when you walk into a gun shop. Oh, we're going to get you the smallest gun possible, not realizing that there's a lot of things that might not be so great with a smaller firearm. The amount of kick that's and recoil that you're going to be dealing with. So I always have thought that the parallels between those two industries are similar. Again, another very male dominated industry for years and years and years, kind of this like rough and rugged and cool thing. And again, when I worked there, it was very much how do you set yourself apart from the other women? Because you'll see the same thing in the firearms industry. There's gun bunnies, there's girls who do this because they're cute and they want the attention and they want the Instagram likes. And that's the same thing in the motorcycle industry. There's a lot of very beautiful women who, pose very sexily on their motorcycles, and they get a lot of attention. But is that really what we're going for? Do we want to be taken seriously as actual experts in the matter, or do we just want to be voluptuous women? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I appreciate beautiful women, right? Like, that's totally fine. But there's this, I don't know, kind of this push-pull dynamic of how the world sees women in these industries.
You're totally right. You're totally right, MJ. And the reason that I never took the gun bunny route is because, listen, there are a lot of women that are considered gun bunnies, especially on Instagram, that are phenomenal shots. Okay. The issue that I had with it is I wanted to be respected for my knowledge first.
Yeah.
I don't want people following me just because they find me attractive. Right. And I think that was so I'm not judgmental toward them at all. They can totally do what they want with their bodies. I mean, we only have these kick-ass bodies for so long until age comes into play. And so I have zero issue with that. But what I do take issue with is that some of these women were seen or looked at or being touted as knowledgeable instructors, and I had met them and I had watched them, and they were not.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous. And so, I don't so I just wanted to take a different route, and I wanted to be respected for my knowledge first. And then, if someone said, oh, she's, a cute, sassy redhead that knows some stuff about guns, I don't care if they say that stuff about me. I don't care if they find me attractive, and I certainly don't care if they don't, because the goal and the mission every day is just to teach so many women how to shoot, how to handle a gun effectively, that they're comfortable carrying it every day, and it becomes normal. Because women are the soft target, and we should be carrying, we don't have these natural deterrents as far as size, speed, and strength. And so I want more women to feel very comfortable having this tool and this weapon on their body every day.
So now let me ask you this question, and this is pretty much a two-part question. Do you think the female armorer on the set of Rust with Alec Baldwin, by her, because everything they're showing that I've seen in relation to her, it was always like the ditzy partier, I don't really take my job too serious demeanor. Do you think that was an indicator of why this probably happened? Or do you think it's more along with it, with her being a female and just not taking it serious?
Well, here's the thing. I never want to assume, but here's what I have to do to answer the question. I have to assume a couple of things based on what I've read in news articles. And one thing I didn't like that people are assuming about her is that she wasn't qualified because of her age, and that's complete bullshit. By the time I was 24, which is the age that she is, I already had 12 years of firearms handling experience. Okay, so if you start people out at a young age in this game, they're going to have a lot of experience when they're very young. So we're going to take her age out of the equation. I don't believe that that's a factor in her being able to do this job. Now, in some of these articles that were written, they quoted her as saying that she didn't really know a lot about this, that she didn't have enough experience, that maybe she didn't even feel comfortable doing this. Her father is a well-known armorer on movie sets, so one can assume that maybe this is how she got that job, but we don't know for sure. So by what I've read, by what I've seen on her own social media pages, I don't think that she had the maturity to do this. Now, we all crack jokes. We all post stupid memes on our social media every now and then. But I don't believe, just from what I know and not knowing her personally, I don't believe that she was mature enough to handle this. I don't believe that the leadership on set had the maturity to understand the gravity of working with firearms. I believe that that's probably the case on a lot of movie sets. There's just, bad things just don't tend to happen very often. Okay. Or we may not hear about it, right? They may be able to kind of shut that down, and it may not make the main news outlets. But no, I don't believe that she was ready for this job. I don't believe that. And I think that is a huge issue with Hollywood being anti-gun. They want to control everything. They want to control the narrative, and so does the media. But really what they're saying is, I want to control you, but I want to remain ignorant. Or I want to control you, but I don't want to learn that. And so I think what has blown my mind in these revelations over the past few days is that actors in general aren't given gun safety training as a requirement for their job, because a lot of these actors and actresses are working on movies, on action movie sets. So they're either handling a prop firearm or a real firearm, or they're having one pointed at them. And the fact that they wouldn't want this education is completely beyond me. But if you look at the people who have actually gotten the training, the Will Smiths, the Keanu Reeves, the Halle Berrys, okay, who've actually worked with reputable people. Now, I know I'm going to go ahead and say this too. I know that some of these people worked with Taryn Tactical. We might feel some kind of way about Taryn Butler in his personal life, but he's a good firearms trainer.
Taryn is my buddy.
Okay.
Taryn is my buddy.
So we got it. But what I'm saying is that people might feel a personal way about some of these folks. Take that out of the equation. The fact of the matter is Taryn Butler's a good firearms trainer.
Yeah, very much.
And the people that work with him get a good education. And so you're not seeing this happen on those sets, right? And then the viral video that went around with Will Smith, who slapped the prop gun away when the guy was pointing it at him and he cleared it. You know, those are the people that took the time to get that good firearms training, whether it was required or not. Okay. And what we saw here could have been so easily avoided.
When I got a deeper respect for Keanu Reeves, it was an interview I was reading that he did. And he stated in that interview, before John Wick was made, he wanted the training from a reputable firearms instructor. So when he's on film, it looks more real versus the corniness that you've seen in with firearms from like Lethal Weapon or Beverly Hills Cop, something like that, because it's only a handful of movies before this one, before John Wick, that actually has that realistic value in it. And I think a lot of actors are wanting to cash in on it, but they're not willing to invest in themselves to get that ideal package. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So Keanu's always had a good reputation in Hollywood for things like that.
Correct. But at the same time, I can honestly say there's a lot of actors and sport figures that are pro 2A, but for whatever reason, of course, contract reasons and their job or whoever's giving them their money from the paychecks, they're not coming forth. And I think if more celebrities were to come out and say, hey, I am a proud firearms owner. I am someone who looked at firearms like this until I got this training. I think it will avoid that stigma in Hollywood now. And now you'll start seeing the pushback. And then it will be 50-50, just like everything else, because you're always going to have your people who like firearms and those who don't like firearms.
And maybe we will see that. Maybe that is starting to become a thing. You've got your Chris Pratts that came out, as conservative. And we have, Kevin Sorbo has always been, someone he may not be looked at as an A-list actor anymore, but I like the dude and I always love what he has to say. So maybe we are going to see some of that, come around in the near future. But something that I really want to address about the Alec Baldwin situation, and especially about the 2A community and people like Sean Heron with We Like Shooting, people like Rob Pincus, have really called out this sort of hypocrisy and maybe even, I wouldn't necessarily call it misinformation, but lack of perspective when it comes to the Alec Baldwin situation within the 2A community, because there were so many people who fancy themselves instructors and subject matter experts on guns that came out and said silly things like, well, he wasn't observing the 4 core safety rules. And then they list out the 4 core safety rules like we don't know them. And you can't take the 4 core safety rules into every situation with guns. Those are safety rules to implement when people are training with a firearm in general situations. That's what that is, okay? But when you're getting into things that maybe police and law enforcement have to do and security personnel have to do, when you get into things like what the military has to do, any military person that's seen combat will tell you that don't point your gun at anything that you're not willing to destroy or kill goes right out the window when you have to go and clear houses in Fallujah. Okay, like your trigger discipline, then you have to lean on that safety rule, right? Your trigger discipline then becomes your safety, because when you're following people up the stairs, or when you have to go and clear rooms, like, you're flagging somebody at some point, right? Whether you mean to or not, just because of lack of space. Okay. That same perspective and critical thinking skill has to come into place when you start thinking about movie sets. They have to point guns at each other. So quit saying that that rule was violated. That rule wasn't violated. If they're shooting a scene, they got to point guns at each other. That's the deal. Okay. What has to come into play then is there's deeper safety rules that have to come into place. The question is still out there, and we still don't know the answer to, of why was live ammunition even on the set? Why was that a thing? Right? There was rumors swirling around that the gun that Alec Baldwin used had been used for target practice earlier that day, et cetera, et cetera. So if we break this down to its most foundational form, and if you fancy yourself somebody in the Second Amendment community, especially if you fancy yourself an instructor, you should have been thinking this all along. The foundational thing that comes into play that Alec should have known, that the assistant director who handed him the prop firearm should have known, that the armorer should have known, that literally every person involved in that movie set that was on scene that day should have known, is that when you're handed a firearm and someone tells you that it's quote unquote cold, you check that shit for yourself before you point it and shoot it at anybody. And if you're going to check it for yourself, you better know what a blank looks like versus a live round. That's it. Okay. So the blame needs to be spread to multiple people. Okay. The armorer is responsible for making sure that there's no live rounds in guns before guns are handed off to anybody. The assistant director should have checked that gun as a secondary measure before he handed it to Alec. Alec should have checked it as the trifecta measure before he ever pointed it and shot it at anybody. So there's your three people to blame right there. And yes, Alec is part of that.
Oh yeah. But now I want to reverse a little bit. Like when I was overseas over in Iraq, and whenever we entered a building, I dared one of my soldiers to flag me, because it's going to be a long talk behind that building when we get finished with that mission.
And I hear that. I hear you on that. And it's not something that you should do or should even want to do. But I am telling you, there are training scenarios in which it just simply cannot be avoided. Yeah. And so you have to have that critical thinking perspective, and you have to then go, well, what other safety rule am I going to lean on to ensure the people around me are going to be safe? So if you can't mind that no flagging safety rule, then you have to lean on that trigger discipline safety rule, which you can do all the time. That's something that you control. You don't control if people move suddenly. You don't control if you have to move suddenly and accidentally flag somebody. But what you can control is where that trigger finger is at all times. And I hate that this happened to Alec, man. I don't like the guy. I've never really liked the guy. There are a lot of people in the world that don't like Alec Baldwin, but I never would have wished this on him. Never in a million years.
Yeah, you don't want to wish this on anyone, because now you got to look at how this one situation affects everyone. Because now, how does this affect his wife's business, his kids' education, their social environment with schooling? Now,
his mental health.
Exactly. And then you got to turn around and look at it from the other side now. So the female who passed away, now her husband and the kid, their mental health, their social well-being, is his career path going to have to change now, because now he's a single parent? And then even break it down even further. All right, so how is this going to affect other people on the set, as far as doing this as a career, regardless if they was an armor or not? Or now, are they only going to pick movies without firearms? And you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's something that spirals down, and it hits everybody in a sense of speaking. But
exactly. And I believe that Hollywood has intentionally, I can't prove it, okay, so I'm only saying what I believe. I believe that Hollywood has intentionally tried to keep these kind of views out of their employment, right? Because a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people that are pro-gun tend to be pro-conservative values. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. There's leftist gun owners, and I welcome them. Okay. 2A is for everybody. But I think that there are a majority of gun owners tend to lean more toward conservative values, and they don't want that in Hollywood. So sometimes this happens, right? If you're not hiring the best person for the job because you may not agree with them politically, that can result in some unsafe things on your movie set. Okay. I think that what I hope that this does is I hope that this gets directors, actors and actresses, producers, camera crews to think about your safety matters, and you need the best possible person, the most reputable person on these movie sets helping out with this stuff. And I hope that they get together and they seek these people out and they keep them busy, because we can't have mothers, just people in general, right? But this was a particularly sad situation because she was young, she was a new mom. Now this child has to grow up without their mother. This husband has to be without his wife, over a terrible, tragic accident that could have totally been avoided had the right protocols been put in place and had corners not been cut.
Mm-hmm.
And but what I love that Alec Baldwin did is that he reached out to her husband with his condolences and that he was sorry, because I can promise you his lawyers told him not to do that. I promise you they did. But to me, that shows that Alec Baldwin does have a heart.
Yeah.
And I hope that people see that. I haven't posted a single negative meme about Alec Baldwin. I haven't said I told you so. I've simply said, this is what happens when an egotistical actor who's been anti-gun his whole life. I mean, karma's a bitch, and this is coming back to bite you in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wish that people would not be so insensitive, especially in our community, because we get hit all the time.
Right.
I mean, you have to think about this in real terms. Liberty is so important. Freedom is so important. It is literally the most important thing. It's more important than life. I don't care who disagrees with me, because people were willing to lay down their life in order for us to have freedom for generations.
Mm-hmm.
That's why freedom is more important than life. Okay. And more often than not, and this is the sad part and this is the hard part, is people get really into their feelings when it comes to freedom, and we look like jackasses and we look like insensitive pricks when we are defending freedom, because more often than not, we're doing it in the middle of someone's greatest life pain.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest life pain, right? We're doing it when moms are losing kids because of gang violence, right? We're doing it when people get shot up at nightclubs because of their sexual preferences. Okay. And then and then political figures automatically come in and they want to ban guns. And we're like, no. We still get to be free. We're not going to be regulated over someone else's stupid choice. That's not our problem. Okay. But then we look insensitive about it.
Right.
So we have to continue. We have to stay the course, and we have to continue the fight, because we know in our hearts that we didn't wish for anybody to get hurt. We didn't wish for that person's son to be killed for gang violence. We didn't wish for the people at Pulse nightclub to be murdered. We didn't wish any of those things. We don't want any of that stuff. We just want to be able to protect ourselves, and we want to continue to be free. So we have to stay the course, on that fight. And we have to continue to tell people, look, it's freedom over everything. And that's just the deal. Okay. But I mean, I feel bad for Alec. I feel bad for everyone on that production crew. But I just hope that this is a lesson learned, because clearly they didn't learn it in the 90s when they killed Brandon Lee.
Right? Well, I think it was learned from the 90s, because they changed and put a lot of new rules in place amongst the industry. I just think what actually ended up taking place from 93 with Brandon Lee's incident is that people got complacent on these sets because all that information never got put out. So, like I said, people who got money, they have a better way of shielding stuff versus a regular person who doesn't have the money to pay somebody to do the cover up or rub elbows with somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, you know.
I agree with you. That's a very fair point.
Right. So but
Com-
what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say you're right. Complacency totally set in
Mm-hmm.
on this movie set, and that's another battle that we have to fight all the time is complacency.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I can honestly say one of the tools that I do to break complacency is why I always do training with other people. Just not hire name instructors. So if I know someone who is trying to become an instructor, I go to their class. Majority of the time, if they know who I am, it backfires on me because I'm not there to critique you or to do your class, but I'm here as a student. So let me hear you say something that I might be overlooking that is relevant for me to stay safe, you know. So but I'm a firm believer that's one system I have in place to check me when it comes to complacency.
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So but what I do want to do is I definitely want to bring you back on a future show.
Yeah, let's do it.
And we'll dedicate a whole interview section to you and what you do, because I think you have an interesting story, and I think that story needs to be heard. Awesome.
Well, I look very forward to it. Absolutely. And I don't really enjoy talking about myself a lot.
Nobody really
but
does. But
but I love talking about things like this because we've gone away from normalizing self-defense. We've gone away from normalizing firearms education, and this used to be a huge part of the American culture. And we were safer when we did it. We were safer when we had it, you know. And now the society has changed so much, and you know, that's both good and bad, but this self-defense education and this firearms education has to be a constant.
But like I said beforehand, we're going to bring you back on a future episode, and we're going to dedicate a whole interview section to you, because that's what I was trying to allude to you when I was talking with you yesterday as well. But you was like, "No, it's your show." Like, okay.
Yeah, it's your show, man. You tell me what to do.
Yeah, I was just trying to fit into your time schedule. That's all it was, because it's normally a little bit early for us to record right now, so I didn't know what you had going on as far as work and everything like that.
Oh, I'm typically pretty flexible as long as I have some notice. I can carve out some time.
Y'all hear that? That's how I circle myself with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are they beautiful.
That's the benefit of owning your own business.
Yeah, I know.
You can do what you want when you want. Okay.
Yeah, so like, not only do I circle myself with good, positive people, they're smart, they're beautiful, but at the same time, whenever you call, you know they're going to pick up the phone. So that's a good thing.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I got to hop here in just a second, but man, NJ, I am so excited about your future. You are doing good things, and you are really hitting it. You hit the ground running on this, and I'm super, super stoked about your future. And really, what I want to do is I want to have sort of a ladies instructor summit in the next year, and just for all of us just to get together and kind of solve the world's problems. So I'll reach out to you about that. And then thank you so much for having me on as well. And I look forward to coming back, guys.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, before you hop off, can you tell the good people how they can follow you, get in contact with you, and look up your information?
Yeah, the good people and the trolls can find me at on Instagram at Clearing the Chamber, and on Facebook at Clearing the Chamber. I'm also on TikTok now at Clearing the Chamber.
Yeah, you got it right there. So but yeah, like I said, what I'll do is later on I'll hit you up, and then we'll plan that out. And
okay.
Yeah, so it'll be later on this evening, my time, around about 6-7 o'clock when I give you a call. And then
okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we'll plan that out. But you take care though, okay?
You too.
All right.
Thanks, Jerah.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
All right, so there you have it right there, Miss Jerah. I did that on purpose when she wasn't on the phone. But like I said, you know, very smart female, very involved into the 2A community and a different perspective. As you could tell, as her being an avid firearms instructor. So her viewpoint is spot on, in my personal opinion. But let's hop into a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to close out the show and give some food for thought. Right. So please stay in your seats, and here are a few words from our sponsors.
Are you in the market to purchase your first or next firearm, but find the atmosphere of a gun store intimidating, crowded, or uninviting? There's a way for you to purchase the gun you want while avoiding the crowds, the gruff salesmen, and the marked up prices that come with a brick and mortar gun store. The process is called a transfer, where the purchase is made in an online store and sent to a federally licensed middleman called an FFL, who processes the paperwork and background check for a firearm purchase. CAE Transfers is the FFL with the lowest transfer cost in the Midlands at only $20 or $15 with the presentation of a South Carolina concealed weapons permit and $10 for repeat customers. If you live in Columbia, South Carolina or its surrounding areas, choose CAE Transfers as your FFL during checkout and let me help you complete your online gun purchase. You can find and follow CAE Transfers online at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using @CAE Transfers. Thank you for your business, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Mental health and guns. At Walk the Talk America, we are working with both the mental health community and the gun industry. Created by a gun industry veteran, Walk the Talk America seeks to raise awareness and create change through suicide prevention and firearm safety without legislation. We strive to eliminate the prejudice that firearms and mental health face. For more information and to support Walk the Talk America, please visit walkthetalkamerica.org.
Hey, this is Brian Conley at Hunters HD Gold. If you've never tried Hunters HD Gold, then I challenge you to find me at a match next year. Go to the website under scheduled events, find out where I'm going to be. Come meet me in person and demo a pair for yourself. Find out why shooters across the United States are changing to Hunters HD Gold to get 43% more light to their eyes, better contrast, eyes that are not fatigued at the end of the day based on the colors that we use, and find out the real meaning of why they change so you don't have to. So check us out on our website, huntershdgold.com, and I look forward to seeing you at the range soon.
JM4 Tactical has developed a state-of-the-art polymer holster that will quickly become your go-to holster. With high-quality Herman oak leather securely sewn to the interior of the molded outer bolt-on shell, your draw becomes silent and no more scratches up and down your firearm. When seconds count, you can rest assured that you will have the upper hand when you need it most. Whether you carry open or concealed, the Relic holster is available in 4 different models, fitting over hundreds of different style guns. The new reliable, easy, light, individual carry holster by JM4 Tactical. Order your Relic today at jm4tactical.com.
I'm Jason Pratt, Masterclass USPSA shooter, owner of Brass Monkey Bullets. If you're interested in competition bullets, visit www.brassmonkeybulletsllc.com or call me at 423-967-1063. For more information, my email is brassmonkeybulletsllc@gmail.com. Thank you.
All right, good people. Thank you for listening to that commercial break. And like I said, Miss Jerah. Miss Jerah.
They're gonna smack you next time she sees you.
Yeah, she probably go chase me around the parking lot, but I'll be like, catch me if you can, catch me if you can. But like I said, she made some valid points, both on the training aspect, ego aspect, and somewhat of a what can we do to move forward past this one roadblock. You know what I'm saying? So I've always enjoyed conversations with her. And like I said, bringing her back onto the podcast in the future, where we have a little bit more time, whereas we can break down a lot of things that she wants to do and the thought process of something. I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, she has such a good perspective, and she's one of my favorite follows online because she's not afraid to take a stance and really speak her mind. I think she's very articulate. I really like her mission. I think having other women as advocates in the firearms industry is so important, and she's just such a great resource. So I encourage people just to check her out and see her work, and send your lady friends her way, because she really is empowering a lot of women to embrace the 2A community.
Oh yeah. That one story she was talking about when she was saying in regards to being like the subject matter expert for the lawyer.
Yeah.
I seen it when she posted that, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome, like to do something like that.
Yeah.
And then the next time I seen Rob Pincus, and we were talking, he was telling me like how people was shutting her down because she was a female and not giving her a fair chance in that regard. And I was like, that sucks right there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just like my personal opinion. I personally think women are better shooters than men. It's just, men control the dynamics and the motion of going forward. So of course, when you look at competition shooting, it's more men in competition shooting. When you look at firearm purchases, in the past, it's always been more men into stuff like that, because even if you back it up, men were the ones that were the hunters, the protectors, so forth and so on. But I just personally believe it's something about the female dynamic that allows the female to be the better shooter, and even when I was a drill sergeant, weighing the difference between the male soldiers and female soldiers, it was always the females that were more first time goes than the males.
Sure.
And we can sit there and blame it, like, because we always tell the soldiers when they first come in, hey, when we do the shooting portion, just listen to us, right? And you will be a first time go. But a lot of y'all going to have that ego and think, oh, well, my daddy taught me how to shoot. My granddad taught me how to shoot, or I was hunting since I was 6 or 7. You're going to come out here, you're going to bolo everything. Just listen to what we're saying, But, and I think that's a big portion of it. Also, as we already know, women listen and they apply, or some women listen and apply.
Yeah.
And, but outside of that, I do believe it's something about the physique of a female that allows her to be a better shooter. Because you got to remember, one of the world wars, Russia was using females as, no, was it Germany? It was German using females as snipers also. So a little bit of history lesson right there also. So, but what's going forward with you in this coming weekend?
Well, mostly work. I have to work this weekend, which I normally don't. I normally work normal office hours, but I know we're doing a photo shoot for some of our new products. So
Nice.
It's at least something that I enjoy and that's fun. And I don't know, it's kind of dreary outside today, but I'm hoping the weekend is nice. And the fall colors are really starting to pop here. It's pretty. So, and then Sunday, just relaxing, because I feel like I'm probably going to be out late Saturday, and I was gone all last week. Saw Clayton and Jen up in Minnesota from Pivotal Defense. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Spent some time with them. And I was in Green Bay before that. So and then I got back into town, and I was staying up at my parents' house. So I just got back to my house last night. And I need to just spend some time on Sunday and relax and get ready for the week.
Nothing wrong with that. Remember, like I told you last week, I was going to go shoot that match. Well, that match got canceled. So
Okay.
Me and my buddy, John from Outdoor Dynamics, we linked up and we did a practice session.
Oh, nice.
And of course, the practice session was very good. The two downers from the practice session was I was still having the ammo issues. All right. But I do believe we figured it out now. I think it's figured out now. So, and I think what the problem was the crimp, meaning the bevel around the bullet that holds it in place wasn't tight enough, or, wasn't straight enough, small enough, however you want to word it. The gauge that I have is a common gauge, and it wasn't specifically for competition shooting. So he took a couple of the rounds home, and I expressed what I thought it was from the rip, and he came back and was like, "Hey, you were spot on. So try this." And he gave me the crimp dimensions. So now I went back and reset all my bullets to this new crimp. So this weekend I'm going to another practice session because
Nice.
of October having 5 weekends. It throws off the circuit that we have here.
Sure.
And October, November timeframe is when a lot of people do a lot of charity events to raise money for whatever organization when it comes to shooting. So my buddy, he has a range in his backyard. So we're gonna go to his house, a group of us, and work on some fundamental stuff. It's a little competition between us all, and it's like a scoring system, but we all help each other out. So I'm going to go that route, and hopefully everything works out. And then if everything works out, then you might hear in the air by Phil Collins. I'm still going to put that together. Just that.
I love it.
But I'm actually looking forward to this one because I actually started going through and I was nicking everything out before I realized, okay, I didn't want to say it was the firearm because the firearm was like working properly like it should. So, and of course, I had changed some stuff on my reloading press, which brought up the theory to me, maybe it's just not sitting in right, because I noticed like how the rounds were sitting in, and, for it to have a malfunction, it only made sense to me that it was the crimp. So let's hope that's what it is. And so I can get back on track and become A class here soon. All right. So right now, like I said, that's all I have going forward, and try to work on my workout, because the other downer that I didn't mention when we was doing the practice session with John was that kind of tweaked my knee a little bit. Ooh. So yeah, so and I just got back into my workout routine because the winter time, it's kind of hard to work out when it gets cold outside. So
yeah.
So what I ended up doing, like I said, was tweaking my knee. So this week I really haven't done anything as far as any type of working out.
Yeah.
So but tomorrow I'm going to be doing a lot more walking, because like I said, I'm going to head up to South Carolina Gun School's location and link up with Rob Pincus and Chris Lyles, who is the head instructor at South Carolina Gun Schools, and hang out with them for a couple hours before I head up to Charlotte and take care of some.
You guys will have a good time. Those are good dudes.
Oh yeah, like me and Rob, we got this thing, we go back and forth with each other. Whatever happened when we was in Tennessee, man, he mollywopped me in pool. He mollywopped me. That was an embarrassment. But I'm coming back. I'm gonna get my revenge. I'm gonna get my all right. So but we do want to thank everybody who listens to the show, regardless of where you are in the world. Thank you for listening to the M-W Tactical Podcast. And like we always say, you can always come back and listen to us every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And head on over to your favorite streaming platform, or go to YouTube and check us out on YouTube, where you can actually see the interaction between Rockstar and myself. Now, if you was looking for the interaction with Jerah, you're not going to see it because we actually called her over the telephone. So you're going to have to wait for us to bring her back so you can actually see the interaction with us on camera. But if you want to go ahead and give me a follow, please go to Facebook and YouTube and look up M-W Tactical. And then if you're on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, look up at M_W Tactical. And then also head on over to www.m-wtactical.com and check out everything that we have in place right now. And of course, if you want to follow Rockstar, please do so at.
You can follow me on Instagram at rockstarburst, BERST. Yeah, that's where I'm most active. I mean, that's where I have the most fun, and I just enjoy posting a lot of my stories there. And I always love a good meme or a good, I love animal videos. So feel free to send me those. They brighten up my day.
Yeah. So, like I was into TikTok at one time, but it got kind of boring to me. But I think I'm going to start going back to TikTok more. Also, it's just a little bit more work for me, but I'm cool. It's about to get cold, so I need to occupy that time anyway, right?
Right.
That's it right there. All right, good people. So if you will, go ahead and stay in your seats, and here are a few words from our sponsors.
Are you in the market to purchase your first or next firearm, but find the atmosphere of a gun store intimidating, crowded, or uninviting? There's a way for you to purchase the gun you want while avoiding the crowds, the gruff salesmen, and the marked up prices that come with a brick and mortar gun store. The process is called a transfer, where the purchase is made in an online store and sent to a federally licensed middleman called an FFL, who processes the paperwork and background check for a firearm purchase. CAE Transfers is the FFL with the lowest transfer cost in the Midlands at only $20 or $15 with the presentation of a South Carolina concealed weapons permit and $10 for repeat customers. If you live in Columbia, South Carolina or its surrounding areas, choose CAE Transfers as your FFL during checkout and let me help you complete your online gun purchase. You can find and follow CAE Transfers online at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using @CAE Transfers. Thank you for your business, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey, this is Brian Conley at Hunters HD Gold. If you've never tried Hunters HD Gold, then I challenge you to find me at a match next year. Go to the website under scheduled events, find out where I'm going to be. Come meet me in person and demo a pair for yourself. Find out why shooters across the United States are changing to Hunters HD Gold to get 43% more light to their eyes, better contrast, eyes that are not fatigued at the end of the day based on the colors that we use, and find out the real meaning of why they change so you don't have to. So check us out on our website, huntershdgold.com, and I look forward to seeing you at the range soon.
JM4 Tactical has developed a state-of-the-art polymer holster that will quickly become your go-to holster. With high-quality Herman oak leather, securely sewn to the interior of the molded outer Bolteron shell, your draw becomes silent and no more scratches up and down your firearm. When seconds count, you can rest assured that you will have the upper hand when you need it most. Whether you carry open or concealed, the Relic holster is available in 4 different models, fitting over hundreds of different style guns. The new reliable, easy, light, individual carry holster by JM4 Tactical. Order your Relic today at jm4tactical.com.
I'm Jason Pratt, Masterclass USPSA shooter, owner of Brass Monkey Bullets. If you're interested in competition bullets, visit www.brassmonkeybulletsllc.com or call me at 423-967-1063. For more information, my email is brassmonkeybulletsllc@gmail.com. Thank you.
Mental health and guns. At Walk the Talk America, we are working with both the mental health community and the gun industry. Created by a gun industry veteran, Walk the Talk America seeks to raise awareness and create change through suicide prevention and firearm safety without legislation. We strive to eliminate the prejudice that firearms and mental health face. For more information and to support Walk the Talk America, please visit walkthetalkamerica.org.
Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us on the M-W Tactical Podcast. Remember, a new podcast comes out every Tuesday. If you can't wait for Tuesday, go listen to past episodes to catch up on what you missed. Make sure you visit www.m-wtactical.com and see what all is offered on the site, where you can even purchase M-W Tactical apparel. But please, go to our Facebook and Instagram page and follow us on our journey in the sport of competition shooting and the realm of the 2A community. Until next week, keep shooting, keep practicing, and have fun.